Criticizing the Federal Reserve. President Trump not happy with Fed Chairman Jay Powell for raising interest rates too quickly. In an interview with Reuters, the president said that he is, quote, not thrilled with his own appointee, adding this: "We are negotiating very powerfully and strongly with other nations. We're going to win, but during this period of time, I should be given some help by the Fed. The other countries are accommodated." The comments rattling the dollar this morning. The dollar is down across most major currencies, with the exception of the Japanese yen. Joining me now is the White House Deputy Press Secretary, Hogan Gidley. Hogan, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for the time.
You know, the economy is doing real well. We had a 4.1% GDP just recently for the quarter. Now we're talking about 3% growth for the year. Things are going well. If the economy is doing so well, Hogan, why is the president upset with the Fed raising interest rates?
I think that's a little bit overblown, some of the commentary I've seen. Listen, the president understands and has said many times the Fed's independent. But look, he wants a strong American economy. The policies he's put in place, as you guys talk about every morning, have made this economy go from something that was basically stagnant at the 1.9% GDP growth, which was the quote-unquote new normal under the Barack Obama administration. Now we're hovering around 4.1% for that 3% average, which is something Barack Obama never saw consistently. And he wants, the entities within the government to support the strong economy, and that's what he wants. But look, he understands where the Fed is, but he made his opinion known.
So it's not the first time he's talked about the Fed. I spoke with Vice President Mike Pence just last month and asked him just that question. Watch this. The president recently tweeted about the Federal Reserve, and he said, it's crazy that the Federal Reserve is going to be raising interest rates. If the economy is so great, why not raise interest rates?
Well, look, we respect the independence of the Federal Reserve, and the president reflected his own personal opinion about that. But what we don't want to see happen going forward is we don't want policies, whether Capitol Hill or elsewhere, that diminish the tremendous energy that we have in this economy today.
So should we be getting into specifics with the Federal Reserve? How do you feel about this, Hogan? Because we know that the Fed's supposed to be independent of fiscal policy.
Right, but it is, and the vice president articulated the president's position beautifully on that. The president feels as though the Fed is independent, but the economy is booming right now, and he wants nothing to stand in the way of an incredible booming economy. We've seen African-American unemployment at record lows, Hispanic unemployment at record lows, employment highs for women as well. I mean, the numbers across this economy, whether it be the 3.7 million jobs created, it's something that not only they didn't think would happen, but you'll remember last week in the cabinet meeting, the great Larry Kudlow stood up in front of everyone and said it's one of the most undervalued, undertold, and unexpected results of the Trump presidency, which is a booming economy. He articulated the fact that this is not just a blip on the screen, that all the indicators show growth for the short-term and long-term future. This is an incredible achievement and accomplishment by this president. His policies were put into effect, and a booming economy as a result. It's lifted all boats, and we don't want anything to stand in the way of that.
So is trade standing in the way? By the way, it's not underreported or unexpected here on this program, but the trade story is something that people are worried about that's going to cut into that growth. So in the same Reuters interview, the president said he's not hopeful on U.S.-China trade negotiations ending all that soon. He said, I like them. I have a long horizon. Hogan, what is the status of the trade situation with China right now?
Well, look, he has an incredible relationship, our president does, with President Xi. He's talked about it many times, but let's be honest about where we are and why we're here. It's because China has been cheating now for decades. The international community knows it, but no one's had the guts, no one's had the fortitude, no one's had the backbone to call them out like this president. He wants free, fair, and reciprocal trade, something we've told you on this program multiple times. His policies are going to protect this country. That's what he wants to do. Also, in addition to that, it's not just China, but Mexico as well. We're on the precipice now of an incredible deal with NAFTA. He previewed that to some degree in that cabinet meeting I referenced earlier. And we're at hundreds of billions of dollars in trade deficits to places like China and places like Mexico. The president finds that unacceptable. It's been going on for too long. He wants to protect the American economy, the American industries, and the American worker, and that's what he's doing.
So the current president of Mexico, his term ends December 1, is that right? And do you expect to deal with Mexico before that?
I can't get ahead of when I expect it, and my estimates and guesswork really doesn't do anything for your program. I can tell you, though, the president has been very clear that he expects a deal very soon. Now, how soon, I'm not going to be specific on, but the president said that in that cabinet meeting. All the cameras were there, and he was very optimistic about getting a deal with Mexico because that's what he wants.
Yeah, no, I know. I heard that, and I think the markets and investors want to hear that another deal is going to be, locked in. What are the sticking points in terms of Mexico? Is it largely about the automotive industry, whereas, where you want to originate a car production?
Well, the president has said that it's all about automotives for him. But listen, the specificity is something that they deal with on a much higher level between both governments because they want this fixed. They want it free, fair, and reciprocal. We've been losing that money, as I mentioned, to Mexico for decades, billions and billions of dollars. The president recognizes that. He wants to work with them to get a deal done, but the deal has to protect America. And so far, the deals that we've cut with NAFTA haven't really done that. That's what he wants to fix.
Do you feel like this president will have a better relationship with the new president of Mexico versus the others?
Listen, I think the president has a good relationship with a lot of international leaders. And remember, when this president got elected, so many detractors, so many Democrats came out and said that he would ruin relationships internationally with everybody.
Right.
Instead, we've actually seen the opposite effect. He has great relationships with the people you just mentioned, like President Xi and the president of Mexico, like Angela Merkel as well, as you saw today with the returning of the last Nazi here in the United States back to Germany from the Holocaust. And that's something that's very important for this president. But look, he's built those relationships everywhere, and for people to say he doesn't have good relationships is just ridiculous. You see it on their faces when he's at NATO. You see it when he has people come to the White House when we go overseas. They love each other. They want to work together. But it doesn't mean they can't disagree every once in a while. When you have partnerships and relationships with folks around the world, we're not going to agree on everything. But what the president does understand and does know and does want is that the American people, the American worker, and American industries are protected first.
Yeah, you got a lot of balls in the air. You're talking a lot about policy, getting more deals done on trade, ensuring the economy keeps up strongly.